Hello and welcome to Tasty Sweet and Salty. Today I'm going to make a delicious, fruity, tropical Pina Colada cake by using fresh pineapple. This video is going to be slightly longer than the other ones, so get comfy and I'll get right into it. For the cake we need eggs, sugar, baking powder, a pinch of salt, flour, shredded coconut, oil and buttermilk. I start by beating up the eggs, the sugar and the salt for about 5 to 7 minutes until the volume has increased about 3 times and the color had turned to a nice pale yellow. In the meantime, I mix baking powder and flour together. My cake batter looks quite nice in volume and color, and now I can fill in the buttermilk and the sunflower oil. Next I put in the shredded coconut and then I add the flour and baking powder spoon by spoon. As soon as I see that the flour is completely incorporated, I stop mixing and then I fill the cake batter into the cake ring. The cake goes into the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes at 170 degrees of Celsius or 340 Fahrenheit. When the cake is done, I cover it and I let it completely cool down for at least 2 hours. I want to cover the cake with a white ganache, and for that I need 300 grams of white chocolate and 100 milliliters of whipped cream. First I melt the white chocolate over hot water and then I boil up the whipped cream. I fill the hot whipped cream in a bowl and then I add the melted chocolate. By melting the chocolate first, it's easier to mix both components together, but you can also just boil up the whipped cream and add small pieces of white chocolate bit by bit and let it melt in the hot whipped cream. The results are still the same, just one method might take a little longer than the other. I cover the ganache with a cling film and I let it completely set at room temperature overnight. Another part of the Pina Colada cake you can prepare one day prior is the pineapple curd. The ingredients are a mid-size ripe pineapple, eggs, sugar, cornstarch and cold butter. I made a separate video of the pineapple curd, and if you want to check it out, I put in a link at the end of this clip. After peeling and cutting, I cut off the core and then I cut the pineapple into slices. So now I put everything in the blender, the pineapple, the sugar, the cornstarch and the eggs, and I start blending. Then I put the puree in a pot to boil it up. So once the puree hits boiling temperature, I let it bubble away for a minute and you can see it has gotten nice, thick and creamy. So now I can put in the cold butter and I let it melt in the hot puree. So our lemon curd is done and we can keep it in a jar at least for 1 week in the fridge. So the amount I got here are 700 milliliters of pineapple curd. For our cake I need only 1 jar, which equals 230 milliliters. The other 2 jars you can make it a nice giveaway, you can enjoy it for breakfast, for your yogurt, for desserts, whatever you like. I have decided to make a Swiss buttercream because it's firm in texture. It's not as sweet as an American buttercream and not as wet as a German buttercream. I start by beating up the butter and the powdered sugar for about 8 to 10 minutes until the color turns almost white. When you use a stand mixer, make sure you start on low speed, otherwise your powdered sugar is going to be everywhere. So while the butter is getting beaten up, to get air into it, I whisk the egg white, the sugar and the salt over hot water until it gets firm, smooth and silky and nicely holds shape. That happens after 10 minutes, when the egg white sugar mixture has reached 70 degrees of Celsius or 158 degrees of Fahrenheit and looks like this. In the meantime, our buttercream has increased its volume and turned the yellow color into nice pale yellow. When you compare it to the butter as it was before, you can see the difference. So now that the egg white sugar mixture is done, we need to cool it back down to room temperature. That part is crucial because otherwise the butter is going to melt. I use my stand mixer for it, and it may take about 15 to 20 minutes to cool it down to room temperature. After that time, we can be on the safe side that the butter and the egg white sugar mixture have the same temperature and we can mix them together. So here is what it looks like after 20 minutes, like a snow white piece of art. So finally it's time to bring butter and egg white together. The mixing doesn't take long, I just make sure that both components are incorporated completely and I get a nice, smooth and silky buttercream. My cake has completely cooled down and now I can take it out of the cake ring. I want to cut the cake in 4 equal layers and I just roughly mark where to cut it. To keep the cake in place, I put some of the buttercream on the cake plate and I put on the first cake layer and I gently press down. So now I can fill the cake. I start with pineapple curd and spread it over the first layer. If I had to do it one more time, I would do it the other way around. I would put on first the buttercream and then the pineapple curd, because in the third layer I realized that the pineapple curd was warming up pretty fast and got soft, while the buttercream was still holding its shape quite nicely. I spread the buttercream carefully on the pineapple curd and I try not to mingle them. The buttercream layer should be as thick as the cake layer and you want to make sure that it's even before you put on the next. I press the second cake layer down gently and I continue filling and repeat to do so until I get to the top. By covering the sides, I do the crumb coating at the same time, which is necessary to lock all the crumbs in place. The surface doesn't have to be ultra perfect, just make it as smooth as you can. Try to cover all the holes you see and lock all the crumbs in place. After that, the cake needs to chill for at least 1 hour in the fridge to prepare the surface to take on the ganache. So now I'm going to take care of the decoration. I advise you to make that step 1 day prior so that your little pineapples have time to harden overnight. To mold the pineapples, I use yellow sugar paste, and to make them look more realistic, I use food coloring powder in yellow, red and blue. Since sugar paste is quite sticky, I dust it with corn flour and I use it also for the countertop and the cutting board. First I have to soften up the sugar paste and warm it up in my hands to make it more manageable to mold. For that I cut the sugar paste into stripes and then I roll them up and make kind of a cylinder-shaped body for the pineapple. The next thing I do is I want to give the little cylinders a more realistic look. I can do that by texturizing them, and for that I use a knife. I cut very gently into the soft sugar paste to make some kind of crisscross pattern to imitate the skin. Just be careful not to cut yourself. So that's my canvas to be painted on. I use some food coloring powder, which I mix in equal parts of yellow, red and blue to get kind of an earthy color with a greenish touch. In total I need about half a teaspoon of food coloring powder. Then I mix the color particles with 2 teaspoons of water. I take a white sheet of paper to make a test how the color looks like, and I think it comes close to what I want. I apply the liquid food color with a small brush, and then I give it time to dry up a little, a minute or two, and then I apply some more color until I get my desired shade. To make the leaves, I take a drop or two of green food coloring paste and I mix it with the yellow sugar paste. When the sugar paste gets too warm and sticky, just use some more corn flour. I mold the paste with my fingers to about 2 mm thickness and then I cut out some rhombus-shaped leaves. The leaves also are getting texturized by cutting slightly and gently into them and to make some lines, which makes them look more realistic. For one pineapple I want to make 5 leaves, and I don't want them all the same size, so I cut some of them bigger and some of them smaller. Then I fold the first leaf lengthwise, and that makes it easier to put the other leaves around this one. When I'm done folding the leaves, I use 1 or 2 drops of food glue to glue the pineapple and the leaves together. The sugar paste decoration should harden overnight, and that's why I advise you to make that step one day prior before you bake the cake. The ganache has rested overnight and is now silky, smooth and ready to be spread over the cake. I wanted to intensify the yellow color a little bit more to make a nice contrast to the white buttercream, and for that I needed only 1 tiny drop of yellow food coloring gel. So my cake was in the fridge for 1 hour and now I can apply the ganache. Since this is going to be the final and outer layer, I wanted to make it as smooth and even as possible. To apply the ganache around the cake, I use a dough cart, and to make it nice, smooth and even, I use a cake scraper. To smooth the edges, I use a palette knife and I go from the outside to the inside by using very gentle pressure. So my cake is done, I put on the decoration and I really like the result. And finally the moment has come to cut in and take a look on the inside. So what do you think? Please leave a comment and let me know. And I can tell you that much, it tastes as amazing as it looks. Fruity, fresh, tropical. It has a really nice coconut pineapple flavor, and to tell you the truth, it really tastes like a virgin pina colada. Well, that's it for today. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you are new to this channel, please feel free to check out some of my other videos. And if you like my content and you want to support me, please click on the subscribe button and hit the bell to not miss out on the next videos to come. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye bye!